Hi guys, it's Saturday. Welcome back to the den. So if you have been watching our channel this week, on Thursday we posted our memorial video for Greg Ballard, our former Mr. Thursday. If you haven't had a chance to watch the video, we're going to post the link up here as well as down below. So we just thought that this would be a great opportunity to talk about grief and how we kind of process grief. For those of you who have been watching our channel for a while, I did a video 3 or 4 years ago talking about some grief that I went through, my earliest experience with death, rather one of my earliest experiences with death. And it's really hard to process at times, and sometimes it's hard to articulate exactly how you're feeling, and it's hard to say out loud how much somebody meant to you and just express into words how you feel about that person, especially when you're going through so much grief that it's just, you can't even accept the fact yet that they've passed, let alone bring yourself to start remembering moments or instances. One of my earliest experiences with death was, I think I was 5 or 6, and my neighbor that lived across the hall from us, she used to babysit us, and one of my best memories was sitting there doing coloring books with her. And we came home from the grocery store one day with our mom, and she had, I guess, passed in her sleep, and they were wheeling her down the hallway, and of course we lived right across the hall, so that was kind of traumatizing and hard to deal with.
I should say so, especially as a child.
Yeah, and it kind of actually prepared me for death experience that I had to go through a few years after that when I lost my grandmother. So I've been prepared from a young age to deal with the passing of people, but for some reason, when the person's young, it just, you can try and make sense of it, and it just doesn't seem to make sense. And sometimes that's all you have to go on, is just this illogical thing that you have to accept it as it is. And it's kind of like a reflection of life itself, because there are moments in life that define explanation, that just, like, when I met this man, like, I knew the moment that I met him, like, that's him, that's the one. And it didn't feel like any other experience I've ever felt in my entire life. And I knew, okay, all right, this is it. All right. So it kind of feels like that to me, grief and death, because it's overwhelming.
Yeah. And for me, it is a bit different because by the time I was 30, I had lost 3 sets of grandparents, my mother and my stepmother. Grief is something that I'm very familiar with now, to the point where in the moment, just after the losses happened, I still keep my head pretty well. But once everything kind of kicks in, then the grieving really starts for me, and I take it very hard still, even after losing a lot of people in my life. It's also different when it's a immediate family member. Like you said, you lost your grandma.
Yeah.
It does take a different, a different sort of grief. It is definitely harder in the moment to lose someone younger, like he said, because it really drives home that life is fleeting, life is short. At any moment, any one of us could be gone.
It makes you appreciate the time you have left. I heard a saying years ago that if you didn't have death, there would be no point to living. Death is inevitable. It's something we're all going to have to face. And it becomes almost like a fire to go on and live your life, especially when you've lost somebody young.
A fire, like a drive.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Like, obviously, our most recent experience was losing Greg. And knowing that he was only 46, like, that's young. That's really young.
That's not even 10 years in the future for us.
Knowing that both of my parents have had issues with their heart. My father's had 3 heart attacks. My mother's had a heart attack. Like, it kind of drives home, all right, I'm not 19 years old anymore. I need to start taking care of myself. And I think what it is, it's a reminder of your own mortality, and it makes me feel like a little scared, because the idea of finally being in love and happy and potentially losing it scares the hell out of me. And waiting so long and finally feeling like you have something to lose, like, no, I want to make sure that I take care of myself. So I guess the silver lining to our most recent loss, losing Greg, like we said, is, for me at least, that reminder that life is short and anything could happen at the drop of a hat. Having experienced so much grief and loss in my life, that's a lesson that I've learned. Like, I always tell people that I love and care about that I love them when I get off the phone with them. Every time I talk to my brother, I always tell him I love him. He lives 3 hours away. I don't get to see him as often as I would like to. So I always make sure that I tell the people that I care about that I love them. But it goes beyond that. It's not just telling the people that you care about that you love them. It comes down to loving yourself too, and taking care of yourself, so that way you can experience that love from others. Because it would break my heart if he had to go on the rest of our life without me, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So that's my silver lining in all of this, is just to keep living and live life to the fullest.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a down note for a video, especially after the last one that we just posted, but we wanted to do a tribute to Greg, all of us, and then obviously we still have a lot of feelings left over on top of giving someone a tribute, so.
Yeah, because in Greg's video, we just kind of explained what he meant to us, and this is more of a chance to reflect on the loss ourselves,
right?
Like how we are perceiving it and taking it. So it's kind of a follow-up, I guess.
And that's also kind of why we weren't able to post last week. We were in a really weird headspace with everything.
Yeah, we both take some time to process stuff before we bring it outward.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, in the moment right after it happens, I'm usually really good about keeping things together, and within a couple days afterwards is when I really start to feel it, and I'll slink into a depression and I have to work through my feelings, and that was last weekend. So
yeah, as it settles in and becomes reality. But I think
we're gonna cut this one a little bit short, guys, because I've had a lot of things to process and a lot of things that we've had to come to grips with over the last week. So we're gonna leave it at that, and let us know in the comments if
you have any tips for how you deal with grief. If you have experienced a traumatic loss yourself, if there's any advice that you were given by somebody that helped you get over it, just let us know in the comments.
In the meantime, as always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Look up the boys on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/manoftheden, twitch.tv/edculp for eds, and give us a like over on Facebook as well.
See you next week, guys. Take care. Bye.